As the White House is consumed by controversy over his call with the leader of Ukraine, President Trump is consumed with anger, and he's on the attack, blasting, as he refers to them as the do-nothing Democrats, going on a profanity-laced tirade against the House impeachment inquiry, calling it a coup, and other more colorful language, repeating his claims that the whistleblower is dishonest and that his or her source is a spy. And folks, he made some of those remarks while sitting right next to the president of Finland in the Oval Office. Moments from now, these two men will once again appear before the cameras at a joint news conference. The president also had a few choice words for House Intel Chairman Adam Schiff, whose committee, along with two others, plan to subpoena the White House to get access to documents on Ukraine. Trump says Schiff should be forced to resign and potentially charged with treason. Schiff says anyone who thinks they will stand in the way of congressional requests should think again.
The White House needs to understand that any action like that, that forces us to litigate or have to consider litigation, will be considered further evidence of obstruction of justice. We're not fooling around here, though. We don't want this to drag on months and months and months, which appears to be the administration's strategy. So they just need to know that even as they try to undermine our ability to find the facts around the president's effort to coerce a foreign leader to create dirt that he can use against a political opponent, that they will be strengthening the case on obstruction if they behave that way.
And then, moments later, the president responded.
Well, the whistleblower was very inaccurate. Not a thing wrong. Unless you heard the Adam Schiff version where he made up my conversation. He actually made it up. It should be criminal. It should be treasonous. We don't call him Shifty Schiff for nothing. He's a shifty, dishonest guy. This guy was negative on Mike Pompeo. He can't, there's an expression, he couldn't carry his blank strap. I won't say it because they'll say it was so terrible to say. But that guy couldn't carry his blank strap. Do you understand that? They're the do-nothing Democrats. They don't do any work. All they want to do is try and win the election in 2020. So they come up with this impeachment nonsense. 99% of Nancy Pelosi's time is spent on this. She should worry about lowering the price of drugs, which I've done.
CNN's chief White House correspondent Jim Acosta is inside that news conference. And Jim, just listening to President Trump earlier, it's like, wow. What
am I watching? Right. Yeah, Brooke, I think the question heading into this press conference that we're going to see starting here in a few moments with the president of Finland is whether or not we are witnessing a meltdown in real time or whether or not this is just another day that ends in Y. The president did just blow up in front of reporters in the Oval Office, attacking the credibility of the whistleblower, even though the Inspector General and the Director of National Intelligence both said that this whistleblower is acting in good faith. The president also attacked what the whistleblower is saying, despite the fact that what the whistleblower is saying in his complaint is backed up with what is in that rough call transcript released by the White House. And so the credibility of the president is on the line here, it seems, almost more than the whistleblower himself. And we'll see whether or not the president wants to continue this tirade when he walks out here in just a few moments with the president of Finland. I will tell you, though, if past is prologue, the president doesn't always do that when he walks into these what we call 2+2 joint news conferences with a head of state. We saw this a couple of weeks ago with the Prime Minister of Australia. He went off on a rant in front of reporters in the Oval Office, but then when he walked in here into the East Room with the Prime Minister, it was a bit more tame. We could see a repeat of that when the president walks in here in a few moments with the president of Finland. But no question about it, Brooke, what we're seeing from the president, I think, reflects what we're hearing and reporting from behind the scenes. Aides and associates of the president, both inside the White House and outside the White House, warning the president that he faces the real likelihood of being impeached. Officials publicly and privately up on Capitol Hill, on the Republican side in some cases, saying that they don't know where all of this is headed. They're concerned about the president's behavior. They're concerned about the president using terms like civil war and coup. And by the way, just as the president was about to make these remarks in the Oval Office, the Trump campaign released a new ad repeating this line, that if Democrats were to impeach and remove the president from office, that it would be some kind of coup. These are the words that we haven't really heard from a president of the United States in our lifetime, and yet, Brooke, we're watching it in real time. The question, of course, is whether or not the president will repeat all of that here in the East Room, but he seems to be fired up, and I will tell you, just talking to a Trump advisor in the last several minutes who watched what the president did in the Oval Office, this advisor was saying, isn't the president a great messenger? Look at the way he went off. People inside Trump world, people inside the president's trusted circle of advisors and aides, they are cheering him on into this fight, and they see this as, despite this being a lot of provocative behavior, being a way to energize his base heading into the 2020 election. Brooke?
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you in just a little bit. We'll stand by for that news conference. Jim, thank you very much. Let's go to Caitlin Collins. She is also there at the White House. And Caitlin, you have new reporting on the president's mindset behind the scenes. What are you hearing?
Yeah, Brooke, one thing that the president made clear is that he's in a combative mood right now. He's looking at this situation. He's watching Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff give this press conference that they gave earlier, delivering those warning shots to the White House about these requests for documents and for interviews, warning that they will subpoena them if necessary. And the president is growing angry because he feels like he's being wronged here. He emerged from the Russia investigation. He declared vindication. He thought this was finally behind him, this impeachment strategy from Democrats. And he saw a lot of their investigations that they've done for the last several months go nowhere. And now the president is trying to essentially grapple with what he's facing now and just how quickly this impeachment inquiry is moving. We reported last week that when Nancy Pelosi announced this, the president was incredulous because he didn't think she was actually going to go there, that she was actually going to take that next step. And then over the next few days, aides inside the White House didn't feel that the president was properly grasping the enormity of what was facing him. And while they still feel that way, they still don't feel that the president realizes just how quickly this is going to be moving. And if he wants to respond, he's going to have to do the same. You're seeing the president lash out at the people who were leading this charge, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. And that is a lot of what the president did there in the Oval Office. And essentially that mirrors what he's been saying privately, focusing on the Democrats here, saying that they're just out to get him, focusing less on the contents of his call. But as Jim was saying, he thinks that people in the president's world say that he's staying on message, he's doing the right thing. There are other people who think that the president needs to grasp this a little bit more tighter. He needs to understand what exactly is coming. Whether or not that changes how he does going forward is still another question, though.